Hello, everybody. We're back. Pre-match talk. Everton versus Aston Villa. The night before, we have got an Aston Villa fan on, Nick. He's going to be on the show. Same format as we always do. If you are on Twitter, we see your comments. When you comment on Twitter, we'll drop them on the screen. We'll drop them on the screen. Yep. Get your comments on. This is it. This is a big match. We do get an opposition fan on now to give it a proper feeling the night before, and this is a big game. So let's get him on. Here he is. Nick, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Not too bad, thank you. Good to be on here.
Cracking to have you on, mate. Cracking to have you on. It's going to be interesting to see what you're going to say as well on how you're doing and stuff like that. We have a format. What we do is we'll look at the last 5 Premier League games of Aston Villa's to look at your form, the last 5 Premier League games of Everton to look at our form. Then we'll put both teams on the screen. You can tell us all about Aston Villa, that's your team, and we'll talk about Everton. We'll predict what lineup we think we're going to get. You predict what lineup you think you're going to get, and then we finish the show with score predictions, and that's it. Simple, but it's a good way to get us all ready for the game. And comments, keep them coming because we want to drop them on the screen. If you've got anything to ask Nick, drop it on the screen, keep it appropriate, and we'll ask him. We love getting an opposition fan on because it gives us a different insight, doesn't it? Here we go then. Let's do this. Just before I chuck it on the screen, how are you feeling about this game, Nick?
First off, I just want to thank you for getting us on. I think it's important to say before we start, earlier on in the season when we played you at home, it fell at the time that you guys lost Michael Jones. So I just think it's appropriate that I start by saying we did a lot of work in terms of remembering the fact that Michael Jones was taken from us too quickly. And I've always had a soft spot for Everton. I said to you in the week, I don't know what it is, but I think it's just traditional British clubs. So, you know, the fact that you guys have actually done incredibly well considering you've had the point deduction, I really hope you guys can sort of fight your way out of the mess that the Premier League and the FA and co have put you in. But in terms of the games itself, it's a difficult one to call. I think you guys have, you've had a tough spell recently. I think the fact we're both coming off a break, it's a hard one to call. I think as a Villa fan, the fact that we're sitting in second place at the moment, a lot of people will be expecting us to try and go out there, try and win the game. But it's a difficult game. It's away from home. I think a point would be a good point. I think lineups are going to be the bigger one.
No, I appreciate that.
It is going to be interesting. Speaking really well, mate. I'm going to put on the screen now. Paul, I'll let you go into it, talk about it first. I don't involve the cup games. I know you've had a cup game, we've had a cup game. Although when I'm going to look at the lineups, I'm going to use your lineup for the Premier League because I don't know whether you rested a few in the cup. But I'm going to use ours of the cup because it's going to be more what we're actually going to get. But on the last 5 games, I go Premier League. I'm not involved in the cup games. Here we go. Drop it on the screen now. We're actually dipping a little bit, ain't we, Paul?
Yeah. The Spurs City games, we were not satisfied with the result, but we were appreciative of the effort and the performances, and we kind of got screwed over by a couple of decisions which we thought should have gone our way. The Wolves game, there was no excuses. We were awful. They were far better, so we deserved to get battered like we did. But we came back in the Palace game in the cup, decent performance, didn't take the chances, which is basically our season. We don't take our chances really. So there would be a game or two where we would end up smashing someone if luck goes our way on a particular day, but we're not usually great at getting 2, 3, 4 goals in one game. So that's why scoring first for us is massively important. And obviously when we did that against Chelsea and Burnley, we could control the game a little bit better and we had a little bit more confidence. But when it's not gone our way early doors, then we've not been able to rectify that.
Nick, on your form there, the first thing I look at when I was writing this up is that you have been conceding a few, haven't you? I mean, you've been over-scoring, but you've been leaking a few in there. What do you think on your form as a fan? How are you feeling about that when I put that on the screen?
Yeah, I think. I mean, first off, feel like we're sort of boxing above our weight. You know, second place for us, we'd have snapped your hands off to be anywhere near to that at this point in the season. I think it's important to note that we've lost Boubacar Kamara for 3 games for suspension over the Christmas period, and it's no sort of consequence that the 3 games that we've looked a little bit iffy in have been where he's been missing. And fortunately, he's back in for us. He is an absolute. I can't even put into words how big he is for us as a club. Does a fantastic job in terms of covering the defence. Really good in tight positions. Paul Torres, another one that's been missing, who I believe is supposed to be back for tomorrow. There's been mixed messages down here. But the fact that we've got, Luiz and Kamara in midfield with Torres playing at centre half, I kind of feel we're more or less back to where that sort of full strength team would be. I went to Man United away, just looking at the fixtures that are in our last 5. And I just thought we looked a little bit naive. Anybody who watched that game, it was sort of, even though we're 2-0 up at half time, there was a lot of early balls played over the top. In terms of getting at Villa, being brutally honest, I think the way to sort of nullify Villa, if you sit deep, we really seem to struggle to break teams down. And even though it's not the most exciting thing to watch, it's something that we seem to really struggle to do. Sheffield United game is a prime example. We had lots of chances, but a lot of them were sort of in and around the edge of the box. There was no sort of clear-cut one-on-ones. They took their one chance that we got, and we're fortunate that we got the point out of it. Man United away, we took the 2 chances we had in the first half from set pieces. But we could see it in the first half, that long ball over the top, the quick ball over the top. It was something that we found difficult. So I think the most important thing for me is we've said if we can keep sort of aiming around 2 points per game, we would be more than excited in terms of how we're doing. Because for me, if we were finishing sort of 6th or 7th this season, it would still be a good season. But the fact we're now in second, there's that little part of you that wants to sort of see the form continue.
I know. I bet you was actually watching the game today with you sitting second. I bet you're looking at Man City. You're at the top end now. You're actually competing to win the Premier League. What a season it's been. And it's someone that often pops up when you talk about Aston Villa, your manager. I bet you're really happy with him, ain't you? He's been fantastic.
I don't want to sound over the top, and this is somebody who's been, I've been a season ticket holder since 1994, started going down when I was like 6 years old. We've been through a whole plethora of managers, and this is another reason why I've got so much respect for Everton. I feel like there's a lot of parallels to be drawn in terms of there's been a lot of seasons where we've finished sort of in similar positions, and we've also had spells where we've felt really hard done by managers that we've had. And I think you've only got to think 5 years ago we were in the bottom end of the Championship, looking like we were possibly going down to League One. And 24 hours from being wrapped up. So to have somebody like Unai Emery in charge has been a breath of fresh air. And I know this will go down well with you guys, but I can't say enough about how bad the football was under Steven Gerrard. So to get rid of him and to get somebody in like Unai Emery has just been a breath of fresh air. It's probably for me the best turnaround and the best football that I've seen in all the years that I've been going down.
No, we did talk about young managers. It's interesting that a lot of them ended up getting sacked. I mean, you look at Vieira, you look at Gerrard, you look at Lampard with us. I know he kept us up, but he might have been part of what put us in that relegation battle. There's a lot of young managers that just haven't earned the stripes and are given the job and not actually earned the job for me. And I think it's shown with you. Like I knew Steven Gerrard, I wanted Steven Gerrard to fail. And when he did, I'm not going to lie. I actually I don't mind Aston Villa. Like you said, you don't mind us, I don't mind you. And Steven Gerrard started to make me not like you because I don't like him when he was your manager. But yeah, now he's gone. I'm back to not minding you that bad. I mean, I want to beat you this game, but I don't mind Aston Villa either. And it's going to be a good game. I mean, your left back, he's a bit of rivalry for us, isn't he, your left back? But it'd be interesting to see whether he plays as well, your left back. But other than that,
the word on Dean is questionable as Torres is. So in that slot, or maybe he's going to be kept out.
Yeah, from what we've heard down here, sort of just giving you a bit of a preview of what sort of our local press are saying. So lineup I've sort of sketched down is we're looking like Martinez in goal, back four of Matty Cash right back. Say again, sorry.
I'll chuck this on as you thingy. I've only just drafted up stuff just so people can see what you're talking about. Well, you know what you're talking about, but here we go. I'll put it on the screen. It'll probably help you anyway because although you can't see the writing, so that didn't really work, did it? There you go. But that's what formation.
Yeah, see, looking at the lineup you've got there, from what we've heard locally and like the sources that we would, I'm sure you guys have got things up there that you follow. In terms of the things that we follow down here, BBC WM, we're usually close to the mark. I think Martinez in goal, spot on. Left back Moreno, I think Dina's probably going to be out until a sort of start of February. Picked up a bad injury, so he'll escape going back to Goodison Park. And then centre halves, we've heard that Ezri Konsa should be starting. We're hearing that Pau Torres should be back. He was in training this week. There's been photos of him in training. He's the one player that I think we've missed most over that sort of Christmas period. I can't speak highly enough of what he's done since he's come in terms of how quick he is at playing the ball up long. His passing is on a sixpence. Left back, going with Moreno. Midfield, probably looking at McGinn, Louise, Kamara, and then out wide, Bailey and Diaby, and then Ollie Watkins up top. So it's not a million miles off, but I wouldn't be surprised if the two centre halves are slightly different to what you've got up.
No, that's interesting.
I like your I like your midfield, really. Douglas Luiz is a bit of a monster. McGinn's probably performing above his standards in previous seasons. He's a very dependable kind of player, so he's a bit annoying when he pops up on the score sheet. And Bailey's probably underperformed from our point of view, but he seems to score against us. So, you've got lots of dangers there for us, I would say, in that 11.
Yeah, I think Bailey's an interesting player to look at if you want to highlight one player in particular. I'm not somebody that slates players or back anybody in the Villa shirt, but last year he was somebody that really frustrated me. And I think when he first came in, I don't think Gerrard was really getting a tune out of him. I think this is another reason why Emery's been such a great addition to the club, in that he's coming in and he's getting the best out of players that are sort of either underperforming or can certainly perform to a lot better than what they're already doing. And this year we're really seeing it from Bailey. I don't think there's... Last time I looked, I think it was only Mo Salah and there was one other, I can't think who it was, that had got more combined goals and assists in terms of the amount of minutes on the pitch. And this is somebody that last year a lot of fans were thinking, do we need to get rid, because he seemed like a bit of a dud signing. Diaby is an interesting one as well. If you ask a lot of Villa fans, spent a lot of money on him. Initially looked insane. Seemed to have really dipped off in the last couple of months, but there's definitely a player there, and you kind of feel that in 3-4 months' time, we could come towards the end of the season, he's going to really come into the fore. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think our midfield is probably the strongest it's been in an awful long time.
Just looking at I was just going to. Sorry, Dan. I was just going to say you had Konsa there as right back. You say Konsa's going to be there again. Matty Cash played in the cup in the weekend, so I don't know what your thoughts are about who's going to do that, because often your fullbacks are the ones I see as a danger, not sort of like the final scoring the goals or anything, but bringing your team kind of further up the pitch. Your fullbacks seem to be really prolific in being able to get your team further up the pitch and getting crosses in the boxes. Is Matty Cash going to be annoying and play against us tomorrow?
Cash is a funny player. There's been a lot of sort of news touted around down this way, and again, I don't know if it's reached sort of national level, but I think it's probably follow-up media from what was announced about Newcastle in terms of having to sell players on to plug gaps for FFP. I think people forget that Villa have sold a lot of homegrown players over the last 2 or 3 years. So Grealish being the notable one, 100 million for him. We've got rid of the likes of Chuck Maker, Ramsey, Cameron Archer, Philogene Bidace. So we've brought in about 160 million pounds worth of money just on homegrown talent. But if you then strip that back and look at players that are currently in the squad, Cash is somebody that divides opinion. He's either very, very good or stands out as having a really poor game. Doesn't seem to be very consistent. He's somebody that, I really like him as a character. But again, if he's having a good game, he's one of our best players on the pitch. If he's having a bad game, it stands out like a sore thumb. In terms of the back line itself, I would rather go with Cash at right back simply because I don't like Konsa playing wide. I think Ezri Konsa doesn't get the credit he deserves. There's been mentions of him getting sort of a call up to England, and I know last time he was called up, he didn't really get a chance. But this is somebody that's been, I think, he's most successful defender over the last 2 or 3 years in terms of stopping players running past him. Absolutely instrumental in not only getting us up from the Championship, but once we got up, being a consistent player that probably wasn't expecting to play as regular as he was, and now he is literally sort of one of the number one choices in the team.
Do you know your McGinn? He wasn't fine either. He's another one that's come a light under your manager, isn't he? I think it's the best I've seen him play. What's really interesting is when me as an Everton fan watching Villa, we think different. I think Akash, I think is really good. And then as a fan of your team, you see your players different, don't you? Like you probably hear me moan about some of my players that other fans would say, "Oh no, he's all right." And when it's your players, you just see different things on them. You watch them a complete different way when it's your own team, and it's interesting to hear you talk about some of your players because, like you say, you do see the weaknesses a bit more, and you're like not sure. Like say Diaby, for example, you just spoke about him, and I think he's sensational, and you're saying his form's dipping, which as an Everton fan, I haven't noticed. I'm coming up against you now, and I'm thinking Diaby's really good. He's one you've got to watch for. He's absolutely on fire. But then you go and say he's not on fire at the minute. He started on fire. This is why I like to get another fan on as well. It gives you an insight of both teams. And Diaby is one for me that I'm definitely going to say someone's got to mark him out of the game. Very, very dangerous. And he was good against us last time we played you as well, especially in the first game. What do you think, like, there's been 2 games. There's been a game where you thrashed us, which I don't like to say. It's probably been the only game that we've been thrashed this season, other than that one we had recently, Wolves 3-0, which we played awful. But I'd say the first time we played you was the hardest game Everton have had. I would say that. You spanked us the first time, but then we played you in the Cup. We got that when we played you in the Cup, your team was really weak and that we wasn't that good and we was lucky because you had a weak team. I still believe you had a good team and we did really well to beat you in the Cup. And that's given me a bit of hope that we're going to be better against you this time. What do you think? Like you played us once, you won 4-0 and then you played us in the Cup and we beat you. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I feel like the Cup game was a really weird one from a Villa fan's perspective. I think, we're sort of trying to work out what Emery's ambitions are in terms of Premier League versus being in European football versus domestic cup football. The League Cup is something that, in Villa's history is something that we still want to go for because we've got a proud record in there. I think when we looked at the lineup that day, I think first off that was notable was the goalkeeper. I don't think people realise just how big Martinez is for Villa. Not only is he world-class goalkeeper, but we haven't actually got anybody, for me, that if Martinez got injured would be anywhere near to being close to being able to replace him. It's a massive worry. I think Olsen played that night, and you ask pretty much any Villa fan, Olsen gives us kittens every time he plays. Anytime the ball's played back to him. And it was evident in that game. There was a couple of back passes that led to, I believe it was the first goal. Just looks edgy. So I kind of feel that with Martinez being back, Kamara and Luiz starting in the middle, I think he's going to be a big plus. When we played you in the Cup, I think, again, it was Dendoncker who jury's out on him. I think if we go with our strongest 11, and this isn't me being rude or anything else, I think we've got to be
bring it on.
We've got to be playing to try and win that game if we want to stay around the position that we're in. But at the same time, we fully appreciate that we're coming up against a Sean Dyche side that is, ignore the league table. I say this to anybody who supports any club. You ignore the league table. There's 10 points been taken off. You put them back on. You guys have done phenomenally well in the position that you guys are in. And it's a massive psychological knock to be given those 10 points taken off. I think, we talk about managers of the year. Emery's been mentioned in terms of what he's done over the last 12 months. I think there's only Man City with more points. But when you look at the position that Dyche is in, when he's had 10 points taken away from him, which in the Premier League is difficult, hasn't been able to spend a serious amount of money, I think you guys have got an argument in there that Dyche has got to be up there as well.
No, he has done fantastic, and he still gets his moans sometimes if he doesn't make substitutions quick enough. We do feel he's got his pros and cons, but he's definitely added a lot more than what he hasn't, and he's changed things with us. And like you say, the 10-point deduction, as an Everton fan, I try and keep reminding our fans, if we did well before the deduction, we would have been 9th in the table. We just need to crack on and forget about that and do exactly what we did before we got the deduction, and we'll be all right. But the problem is when you get the 10 points, it puts you at the bottom, and straight away our fans are looking at teams at the bottom and seeing us in a relegation battle, because we are scarred. We've been in 2 relegation battles the last 2 seasons, but I honestly do believe that we are better than what we was then. I feel this is a different Everton this season, and that we wouldn't be in a relegation battle this season. I still don't think we will be. I think when it kicks in, and we start putting wins on the table. I mean, we won 4 in a row before we got the actual 10-point deduction. So I still believe that we'll be okay this season. But it does knock you back. Like you said, the 10-point deduction does knock you back. And we just need to kind of crack on. It's dented us a little bit, and it's wrong. But we can't keep going on about it, can you? That's the thing. Like Dyche says, you've got to get on with it. You have got to get on with it, and you've got to take it on as a challenge. Interesting, though, because we've had... a Newcastle fan on, and I know that's a bit. Some of them don't like us, but he's all right. Who we have on? He said we should. He didn't like that we got the 10-point deduction. Man U, Chelsea, everyone same as you. Like say that it is wrong, but we've got to accept it. It doesn't feel right. We have appealed, but we have got to accept it, and we've got to crack on. You never know. We might get a few back, but I doubt it very much. So your team, tell us. I know you roughly told us what your team is, but tell us now your team, and then we'll do our team, what we want, me and Paul. In the comments, we want you to give your lineup, what you want as well, and then we'll finish on score predictions. So give us your team from goalkeeper, and then we'll roughly know what we're getting.
Okay, so for me, I think starting on it for tomorrow, we go Emi Martinez in goal. I think he'll go back four. I think he'll go with Matty Cash right back, Ezri Konsa centre half. I'm hoping Pau Torres centre half to go alongside him. I say instrumental in like what we've done this season. Moreno left back, who is, I think that's the other thing we didn't mention about Emery in terms of signings. He's brought very few players in other than Diaby and Moreno. It's pretty much the side that is a combination of Dean Smith, Steven Gerrard, and dare I say it goes back to the Steve Bruce days as well. So he's working wonders with a squad that really isn't his own. And then midfield, I think he'll go Luiz and Kamara sort of sitting in, McGinn just in front of them, Leon Bailey out wide, Diaby on the other side, and then Ollie Watkins up top. And if you wanted to press me for a score prediction, I'm not normally the most confident.
Save that. Save the score prediction.
Hang on.
Save it. That's at the end. We'll finish that. That is your team. That is probably. Would you say that's your strongest team?
Close to, yeah. I think Jacob Ramsey is the one for me that's been an interesting one in that he's been out a lot this season. Ramsey is such a huge talent and was up and coming, looked phenomenal last season. The injury that he's had, I think he's really struggled to get back to the form that he was at. You know, he had a reoccurrence. We beat Brighton earlier on in the season. We beat West Ham 4-1, beat Brighton 6-1. And the reoccurrence of the foot injury, he's just never seemed to recapture the form that he was at last season. When he's back to full form, for me, he's a starting player every single week, but it's as close to full strength as I'd expect.
What Paul normally asks, I'll ask his question. I'll steal it off him.
Go on
your team, I'll take your question. On your team, what do you feel like is something that you're scared of against us? Do you feel like you've got a weakness? We've got players that we are scared of and where we know things can go wrong. On your team, is there things that you can see going wrong, or you think you're strong everywhere?
I think if the big one for me is Torres again. I don't want to single a single player out, but in terms of what he's bought for us, you know, when we played Man United away, we absolutely played United off the park first half, and then just were really naive to concede from quick balls over the top. And if Torres isn't playing, we struggle with that quick early ball, that sort of long ball over the top, somebody with a bit of pace, physicality. I love Diego Carlos, but he has got a reputation for sort of getting involved in a bit of a tussle with somebody. So someone like a Calvert-Lewin, who, for me, always seems to do a decent job against Villa. If he's up for it and he's on form, I think if he's up against someone like Carlos, he's a threat to us straight away. Without being rude again, I'm kind of pleased that McNeil's not playing. He's somebody that I really rate. And I think when Everton signed him, I made a point of saying that on our Villa podcast that McNeil is somebody that we've been linked to previously. I think he'll do wonders for you guys. So it was a shame to see what happened to him. But the biggest one with us is sort of we've got, I think, with the most successful team at the moment in terms of when we take the lead, in terms of getting the points, we don't seem to drop a lot of points when we do go in front. So that first goal for me is going to be the big one. And if somebody like Calvert-Lewin or somebody's on form, that's somebody that I'll be concerned about.
We're going to give our lineups now. Just one last question before we move on to our lineups. Set plays, you'll know. I mean, we're not just about long balls and crosses in. Some people will say that under Dyche, we've got more to our game than that for me. But we do knock balls in the box, and we're known as quite a powerful, strong team on set pieces. Do you feel that your strength is in that as well, and you can handle us on that?
Arguably, I think sort of going forwards, we are defensively. Jury's out. We do concede goals from set pieces, but then we do score goals from set pieces. I think for anybody that's not sort of a fade to him, Austin McPhee, somebody that I know TalkSport are one in particular that like to highlight the fact that we've got a set piece coach. A lot of teams don't, and they sort of seem to think that we're like an NFL team. But I promise you, since Austin McPhee's come in, and this is from somebody that's moved his seat to go and sit in different areas and whatever else for European games, we've got somebody there that works incredibly hard. Every single time we get a set piece, he is out on the touchline screaming, shouting, looking at his iPad, coming up with plays and whatever else. And some of the creativity of some of the goals that we've scored this year is something that we've massively lacked. Over the last few years, we've had the likes of Tyrone Mings going right back to when we had people like James Chester, John Terry, but we never seem to have that execution. Whereas we've got somebody now who seems to have a sort of forward-thinking plan as to what we can do to try and score goals and create trouble when we're going forwards. Defensively, we can sometimes be a little bit lax, but again, set pieces will be a really interesting one between the two teams tomorrow. I don't see a lot in it.
I remember listening. I think it was to Gary Neville. He was saying when he come up against you, I think it was your manager. He said different gravy, different level. He's 20 steps ahead on the brain and stuff like that. He's got so much going on in his brain. It's interesting for you to say that with set piece and stuff like that. I'm sure your manager has a lot to do with that as well. He's on the ball with everything. He's a very, very clever manager, knowledgeable manager that's going to want to get every little thing right. So he's probably been a part of you being good at set pieces as well. Right, so we're going to drop our lineup. You can get involved and talk about our team as well, what scares you and stuff like that, and what you feel you can hurt us on. Paul, drop your lineup now. I've got this on the picture, but for some reason, idiot me decided to write in yellow, which you can't see, which I've learned. You learn from your mistakes, don't you? You get them out of the way before the game, but you can't actually see it that
it's all
well.
part of the journey. It's all part of the journey, Dan. All part of the journey. We improve every game.
We get better. Don't worry. I got it wrong. I got it. It's just one of those shots you're over the bar, but then when you actually kick off, I'm going to smash one top corner. So here we go. Paul, your lineup. So you got that there to roughly gives you our shape, and that's roughly our team there as well, isn't it? So what are you going for? What's your lineup, Paul?
Yeah, there's going to be one or two changes in the whole squad, to be fair. Garnagay was injured anyway, but he's gone to AFCON. McNeil is... Well, the injury, Sean Dyche said in the press conference that it's better than originally thought. He's a lucky boy, etc., etc. This one might be a little bit beyond him, but maybe the Fulham game end of the month is where he would come back. And I think generally that's everyone okay then. Decore said has been training, so in contention, I think, for this one, with the words that he used. Everyone else seems to be roughly okay. Ashley Young is in contention as well, whether you like it or not. So we've got plenty to choose from. But for me, Pickford in goal, same back four as we got there. Mikolenko left back, Branthwaite, Tarky, wouldn't swap any of them. Coleman, I would definitely have right back. Bit of experience. I still think he's our best right back at the club. Then you go centre, James Garner, Onana in the middle. Hopefully both of them working well together. Harrison on the right for me. Danjuma doing the left job. I hope that's the case. And Decore comes in behind DCL. I think if there's any chance of Decore starting, he starts. And that's my 11.
So the only change that you've got, McNeil's injured, so you pulled Harrison over and you've gone Decore in there. And you've kept Coleman right back, which there could be questions on that. So that is Paul's team. We'll read your teams out on the screen. Get your teams in the comments, please. We want to see what your team would be for this game. My team would be Pickford in goals. Although I do think the other goalkeeper did very well last time, the backup keeper, Virginia. And Paul's thinks I'm crazy for wanting to give him a bit of a chance. But Pickford's the number one.
He was good. He was good, but, Pickford's number one, isn't he? Pickford's number one.
He showed me he's good. Pickford's number one. So then you've got Mikolenko smashing it. His magic left back. He's been a revelation under Dyche. Branthwaite and Tarky, I couldn't have two better centre backs. I've finally got me Lescott and me Jagielka centre back. On the right back, this is a bit. Do you play Ashley Young? He'll be back. Do you play Coleman? Do you play Patterson? This has been the question for us Everton fans. I'd stick with Coleman. I trust him more. Ashley Young is one that he could get chosen over Coleman. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what you think, Nick, on Ashley Young, because he's something that we do worry about when he plays there because he gets cards very, very quick. I don't know whether he's like this under you, but Ashley Young we've been betting on him how quick he's going to get a yellow card. That's how rational he is. So I'm going to go Coleman. I'm not going to put Young there. I'm not going to put Patterson there. Playing on the right, I'm going to go Harrison. Then I'm going to, in McNeil's position, play Danjuma. Danjuma's been a big talk for us. We thought he was leaving, but it turns out it was an old playing picture, I think. So Danjuma gets his chance. He hasn't been that good, but this is his time to step up. Onana and Garner, very good in the centre of midfield, but do need to be even better against Aston Villa because they're good as well. This is the main thing for me. Doucouré has to play this game. I think Doucouré is massive in this game for us being good. And he's been a player for us that starts our press, doesn't stop, just a very, very good player and doesn't wait for things and turns up. So Doucouré in front of Onana and Garner. And then I would go Calvert-Lewin up front, not Beto, but it's not far between Calvert-Lewin or Beto. But without the ban, I'd go Calvert-Lewin. That's my team. It's the same as yours, isn't it, Paul?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. I think it does really with some people coming back, and the people that we know are out. Then yeah, it pretty much does. Danjuma's questionable just because of what's sort of talk over the last few days. But as far as Sean Dyche says, he's available. He's an Everton player. He's in contention. That was from the press conference on yesterday.
Sounded like he's playing the press. Dyche did say he's got a good.
Sounds like he's there. Yeah. Sounds like he's there. To be fair, so we've got lots of a few other comments and
he is staying
lineups and everything else.
I think.
Yeah. I was actually, just before I go on to those, I was going to ask Nick. I was just looking at your lineups last few games. You went 3 at the back against Brentford as well. I know it worked out well for you. You ended up winning 2-1. Is that something that Villa would do against us? Go 3 at the back? I hope so.
It's a really tough question. I think this is the thing with Emery. We're not sort of used to having a manager that seems to have multiple different sort of cards up his sleeve. We're used to having people that just come in and just do the same thing week in, week out. And that's been refreshing in that we've won games in difficult places, albeit using different tactics each week. I think back to when we beat Chelsea away from home, Brentford away from home. They're the sort of games that we knew would be difficult, but completely different lineups and different setups. I think, again, I keep going back to him. I keep mentioning him. I think he's like, if you had to pick a key player, I think Pau Torres is the one, in that he's been the one that we've missed most over the Christmas break. I think if we play Torres, I think he'll go two centre halves, traditional 2 wing backs in Moreno and Cash. I think we've been trying to play the 3 at the back because basically trying to plug the gap. I think someone's just put it in the comments as well. I think when we played United away, we'd got Longley and Carlos, who 2 of them for me aren't your starting centre halves. We were trying to patch a massive gap there. And it was exploited well by them in the second half. It was being exploited by them in the first half. It's just we were fortunate we didn't concede. But I'll be expecting him to play the 4 flat at the back tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's fair enough.
Yeah, I hate the wing backs, don't I, Paul? I hate it. Do you like it? I don't like the 3 centre backs.
We have this conversation.
When we play it does my head in. And we actually we played it against you. It's Aston Villa that started this actually, because we played it against Aston Villa, and we beat you.
But we won, Dan.
Since then, yes,
we won.
I don't. That was the only time we've ever played it well, and I feel like it's bit us up the arse because we tried it again, and we played it against Burnley. But I felt like Burnley was poor, and that's the reason we won against Burnley with it. And then we played it against Wolves and eventually got spanked in the formation. But I could see it coming. I could see the gaps when the wing-backs pushed up. I could see how easy it was to attack us in this formation because Burnley had chances and it's just one long ball. Because when we play the 3 at the back, it becomes Keane and Tarkowski and it's very slow for me. Branthwaite has a lot to cover their speed. So for me, I don't like it. I like the 2. I like the 4 at the back, old school, solid, and get your 5 in front of them midfield. And if we play that against you, I'm worried, but I'm hoping we're behind that. Do you mind it? Do you actually feel like... Because when we play that formation with the 3 centre-backs and the wing-backs, I feel like we can't pass the ball as well in it. When you play the 4-5-1 or the 4-4-2, I feel like your players are sitting in better positions, so it's easier to pass the ball. They're always in better positions when you pass the ball from the back. But then when you try and go and pass the ball from the back with your 3 centre-backs, you kind of wish one of your centre-backs was up there in midfield and you can pass the ball a lot better. So for me, I hate that formation because I feel it kills us in possession because we're not that good at possession anyway. So when we play that, we're double crap at possession. So I don't want to play that formation. What about you? Do you feel like you nailed that one?
I wouldn't say nail. I think, again, going back to a comment that came up a minute ago about the Man United away game, I think we're forced to play that a little bit when we've got some of our key midfielders missing. So if we're missing Louise or Kamara, I mean, they are probably the strongest central midfield partnership I've seen in all the years I've been going down. They literally dovetail perfectly. They work well together. If one of those are missing, it sort of takes off that extra line of defence and you start to worry about your back line a little bit more. So if one of those are missing, like they were against Man U, we didn't have Kamara playing. It meant we had to play the extra player in the central defensive role. The fact we've got Louise and Kamara playing, we should have enough to be able to play four at the back and have those two where one of them's always sitting in. Kamara's a weird one in that he doesn't seem to get any of the plaudits. He's one of those players that you've probably got similar. And you mentioned about Decore. He's one player that I've always loved for Everton.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, he just does the dirty work. He always knows where to be. He always sees things ahead of anybody else. And that's one player that, going back a few years back, I actually remember mentioning it's someone that I'd be interested in just trying to sort of chase. But Kamara's similar in that we picked him up, albeit free. I don't know how I managed to get him free. That was one of the few things that Gerrard did well at the Villa. But just does everything exactly as asked to be. Like, you know, he's good in tight possession. His passing is 2-3 seconds ahead of anybody else. As soon as he receives the ball, he knows where he wants to play it. And having a player like that sitting in front of your back line, you can afford to play the four. When he's not playing, that's when I start to worry a bit more.
What did you think on the Ashley Young subject that I touched on? You've probably seen him play for us. I mean, he got sent off in the derby, and I think he's got ability, but I just think he dives in on tackles. He shouldn't sometimes. What was you like when he played for you? I know he played really well for you, and he's a big part on you getting high up in the table, wasn't he, when he come to you?
Yeah, I mean, Ashley Young, you ask any Villa fan, Ashley Young is held in seriously high regard for the 2 spells he's had at the club. First spell, you know, I don't tend to have a lot of names on the backs of shirts and stuff. But I remember being a bit younger and a bit more naive. I had him slapped straight on the back of the shirt when we signed him. And he did an awful lot of good for the Villa. He got us up the league, got us into Europe, got his England call up, and he became an England regular off the back of that. We just gutted that Man United pinched him. When he came back, I think we were a little bit concerned in terms of the age that he was. But again, I think you've got to look at the fact he's gone out to Italy. He's played nearly every game in that season over at Inter Milan, won a league with them, came back to us, and we weren't expecting him to play many games. And it actually ended up being the fact that he was probably one of the first names on the team sheet in that Gerrard spell, in that he was consistent. He knew that, funny enough, I believe it was Everton I'm thinking of last year, where he was struggling. No, it wasn't Everton, it was Leicester. He was struggling when he played at right back when you got Harvey Barnes up against him. And very quickly, within 5-10 minutes of Barnes beating him a couple of times, he was clever enough to sort of learn to stand 5-10 yards off. Whether he can add anything to the Everton team in terms of his knowledge of Villa, that might be something that's interesting to look at. But, you know, I'll never say anything bad about Ashley Young. You know, his time at Villa, absolutely phenomenal. You've got somebody there that is a natural leader. He's been there at the top. Yes, his legs are probably on the way out and everything else. But when you look at the position that Everton are in terms of trying to make sure they stay safe and everything else, it's what you can add to the club off the pitch as well.
No, he definitely has. That's what Dyche does tell us a lot, that he's got the experience. I think he's still got the ability, and he can still do a job, and he can cover a lot of positions as well. And I think that's massive. He can play left wing, left back, right wing, can't he? And there's not many players that can do that in the Premier League, especially at his age. He just needs to calm down for us. I don't think he did it for you. I don't think he picked up these yellow cards and nearly got sent off all the time for you. I don't know what it is. He's probably having a midlife crisis or something like that. But hopefully we get the good Ashley Young, and because we got the good Gareth Barry, so hopefully we can get the good Ashley Young, and he'll actually be decent for us. They go a long time, don't they? These Villa players, Gareth Barry, Ashley Young, they've got some age on them, haven't they? They're still going at old age. I don't know what you put in the dinners for them, like, but hopefully we can get some good out of Ashley Young. Right, so get the lineups on the screen and we'll do score prediction. This is where we'll fall out and we'll have a big kick-off on the channel because score predictions, we're not going to be agreeing on this. So
going to throw a few lineups off people just to before we get to the predictions and stuff. Cass is in.
That's what I meant. Yeah, the lineups.
Yeah, so he's gone 4-4-1-1. Coleman, JP in goal, obviously. Coleman, Tarky, Branthwaite, Mikalenko, Harrison, Garner, Onana, McNeil, although he has then said that he forgot O'Neill was injured, so he would go Danjuma on the left. And then Decore and DCL, you know, I think pretty much exactly the same as we'd said ourselves. Blues, Coleman, Taki, Branthwaite, Miko, Harrison, Danjuma left, Onana, Garner middle, Decorah, DCL. We're pretty much in agreement with who should be playing. Although, to be fair, Eugene, we love Eugene. He said that he thinks Sean Dyche will play Beto. It'd be interesting to see actually who Villa would prefer to play against, because we do say it every week, don't we? When Beto plays, an opposition defender gets injured. so because he loves a ruck. He loves a ruck. Does Beto? So maybe they'd fancy more of DCL. To be fair, that's it on the predictions. We've got a few score predictions coming in.
Get your score predictions.
Yeah, everyone's keen. Everyone's keen.
Everyone is get these score predictions in. What are you scared of when you look at our team? Because I actually feel I'm ready for you this time. It's 1-1. We beat you in the cup. You beat us in the Premier League. I feel our team's strong, and I know McNeil's missing, which you say, but I've just got a feeling Danjuma's a good player, but he hasn't been. But I feel he's a good player, and this is time for him to step up. He looked good last game when he come on for the cup. Low in confidence. But I watched him for Bournemouth and I've watched him in the Europa League. He's a good player. So I don't feel we're weak anywhere when I look at our squad against you. And I feel you're really strong as well. This is going to be a cracking game tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a get-stuck-in game as well. It's a very in-your-face game, isn't it? I don't think it's going to be pass-pass. I think it's going to be fight who wants it the most and a proper passion game. We've got a good game coming. Does anything... like Branthwaite's been sensational. For us, centre-back, Onana, some of our fans are 50-50 on him, but I love him. James Garner's been good. Harrison is one you might feel like he's decent. He can be good. We've seen him good for Leeds. He's not fully kicking for us yet. And then we've got Decorah back and possibly Beto or Calvert-Lewin up front. What are you scared of, Nick? Anything?
It depends on how you define the word scared. I think for me, players that I definitely point out as being strengths for you, I've already said it, Decorah in midfield. I think if we're playing Kamara and Louise, I've said it several times, that, you know, when we played Man City at home, and this isn't exaggerating, you can ask many a Villa fan from all different age groups. When we played Man City at home, that's one of the best performances I've seen at Villa Park in all the years I've been going down. And those two were instrumental that night in terms of running midfield, making sure that they won every single ball, everything else. You've got to get a player in that's going to combat with those two. If you can get somebody in and about those two who's going to press things down, give them minimal time on the ball, then that's something that can cause us trouble. So someone like a Decorah and Nana in the middle, they're going to be key players for you tomorrow. I think I've already said about Calvert-Lewin. I think the first goal is key tomorrow. I think if you guys get the first goal, it's going to be a really difficult task for us. Dyche has got a history of being able to sort of shut up shop a little bit once they go in the lead. But for us, we're the opposite way around in that we sort of really need to take the lead to feel comfortable. I think if we go behind, it's a little bit of a worry as to whether we're going to have enough to come back. On the face of it, like I say, people can say because of where you are in the league that we should be going for the 3 points. I'd be happy with the point because it's away from home. And I think you guys are a lot better than, again, the league position is false. You know, you ultimately put those 10 points back on there. You deserve a lot more credit than you get. And I don't think you are getting enough credit, same as we're probably not getting enough from the media. And unfortunately, unless you're Liverpool or one of the Man United, one of the Manchester clubs or London clubs, we're never going to get that credit that we deserve. But yeah, for me, Calvert-Lewin up top, Decorah, possibly Onana in the middle. They're the three that would probably be the three that would stand out for me.
No, they are players that I probably would say are massive on us playing well this game. Right, so let's get it. Score prediction. Don't take it easy on us here. Go with your heart. Treat this like you've got £1 million free bet and you can put it on the score prediction and you really want to get it right. What is your score prediction?
You might have changed my mind now. You've said £1 million on the line.
Yeah.
I think to be honest with you, again, I find this a really hard one to call, simply because there's been that gap in the play as well. In terms of we've had a couple of weeks off. We had the one FA Cup game that was chucked in. You know, I think we needed that break. I think you guys probably similar. We desperately needed the break. We've had players missing. Again, unless you're Newcastle or, you know, Man United, nobody else seems to have any injuries in their club if you listen to the media. You know, we've been stringing along without the likes of Tyrone Mings, without the likes of Jacob Ramsey week in, week out. Buendia always seems to have a good game against Everton.
Yeah.
And we've got no Mings and no Buendia for the whole season. To lose them at the very start of the season was a big loss to us, and they're starting players. I put down before I came on here that I think I fancy us to win 2-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a draw. I think it's going to be a very, very close game, whichever way it goes. I can't see it being a very clear sort of victory for either team.
2-1 or a draw. You're only allowed to pick one. Which you going with?
I'll stick with what I said before. If you give me some stick afterwards, we'll go 2-1 Villa.
2-1 Villa. So now we go that specific. We want to know who your goal scorers are. So who's your goal scorers? Who scores 2 for you and who scores 1 for us?
God, you didn't tell me that before. We'll go. We'll go. Well, do you know what? I'll go Harrison for you because Harrison always seems to have a good game against the Villa. And that goes back to when he played at Leeds. He was linked to us several times. So Harrison to get a goal for you guys. I don't know what order the goal's going to come in. Don't ask me that. But Harrison for you. Watkins is due a goal. He's assisting incredibly well. He's got a couple of goals games without goal, but he seems to be chipping in terms of assisting. So we'll go Watkins with 1, and I'm going to go Leon Bailey because he's really sort of stepped up this season. Not normally as good away from home, but I feel like the break's going to really have suited him.
He was a shitbag against us as well. Can't remember which game it was, but he completely did us. And we was linked to him quite a lot. I don't know whether you know that. We was linked to Bailey for a long time when we wasn't going to get him because our financial situation wasn't that good. And when Everton's linked to a player and you come up against him, he scores. So I can see where Bailey's coming from. I can't remember which game it was. I think it was 3-1 or something like that Bailey scored against us. Just seeing it in my head. So there's his goal scorers. Bailey, Watkins, and then Harrison for us. Right, Paul, score prediction. Sometimes, Paul, you're quite... Don't go all in, do you? What you got for this game?
I'm not being daft this time. I'm not being daft. Villa are averaging sort of 2.3 goals a game, but they're also conceding as well. Our home advantage on sort of goals isn't great. Villa are better at home. Villa actually have only failed to score Forest away in November and Liverpool away in start of September, I think it was. So they've scored in every other game since. So that in itself is a massive, a massive worry, particularly if we're on the back of 4 defeats out of 5 games. But we are better at keeping clean sheets than Villa. I do see both teams scoring. Head would sort of say like a 1-1, but that's rubbish. So I'm going 2-1 Everton. And scoring wise, absolute just toss of a coin for anybody, to be fair. I like going for someone who like doesn't score very often. Miko's not scored for a couple of months now. So let's have Mikolenko scores 1 at the far post. Then we managed to get a second off. We get a second off Decore, and then we have a wobbly last 10 minutes because Watkins scores. But we hold on for a 2-1. That's me.
That is Paul's score prediction, 2-1. So we've got 2-1 each end so far. My score prediction, I dreamt about it last night. Don't worry, I've got it in my head already. I know exactly what I'm doing here. And I don't normally go for this. Paul will be laughing because I normally go for us to win 4-1, 5-1. I'm Mr.
Oh, ridiculous. Nick,
Yeah,
actually, it's embarrassing, to be honest with you, Nick. Honest to God.
I'll put a 5 on that.
Sometimes I do get it right. But no, my score prediction this time, and I've got the game in my head here, it's 2-0 Everton. And I'll tell you exactly the way it's going to go. I'll tell you how it's going to go. The first goal scorer is going to be Danjuma. There's loads of speculation that he wants to go. We're not sure whether we're going to keep him for the whole loan when he's got to stay the whole loan unless we choose not to. And I think this is the time Danjuma shines. So I think Danjuma's going to get the first goal. I think we're going to take a lot from you, but we can defend really well. So I'm ready for it. And I think eventually we take that much, that you commit too much. And I think Decore is going to catch you out on the break. And I think Decore just coming back, we don't win without him. He's back now. We will win with him. I think Decore will get the goal and he'll make it 2-0. And I know it's crazy for saying that you're not going to score against us because I know how good Villa are. But I've got it in my head and I've got to stick with it. So 2-0, Danjuma and Decore. That's what I'm going to hit William Hill with. But don't gamble. It's bad for you, but that's what I'm going to hit William Hill with. So that's my score prediction: 2-0 Everton, and I'm going to have a heart attack all the way through it because I'd like it to be 6-0, and I'd still have a heart attack at the end if it was. Right, go on, Paul.
Yeah, well, my dad's in. Hi, Dad. He says the same as you, Dan, which isn't often. He said Tarkovsky and Harrison.
He's scared now. He's scared.
Well,
he's
there
worried
you go.
now. Look. We've got this going. It's going down now. Told you this is where it goes down now. This is where it was all going good, and I was loving Villa. He was loving Everton, and now it's all kicking off. Now we're doing score predictions. Right, go on then. Bring it on.
Well, hang on. Let's go for a hat trick. Here's Cass. Cass says 2-0 as well.
Whoa! He's positive as well. He normally says 4-0, Nick. So that's a big compliment to Aston Villa, that is, because he's 4-0 every game, Paul Castle is.
He is. Everton so is Eugene. 4-1 Eugene. There you go.
There you go.
Wow.
Proper Everton fan. We need those fans to keep us positive.
To be fair, we love Eugene. He's always positive. He says Anana, Decore, Harrison, and DCL. I like the fact that it's spread out and no one's getting any braces. I think one of the reasons that Everton and Villa kind of got a mutual understanding and respect of each other is that when either of us get a chance to break that mold, to threaten those teams in that top 4, 5, 6, whatever. There's always games which are opportunities. You look back at the end of the season when we don't make it, and it's like, why the bloody hell did we draw against Sheffield United 1-1? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. When we could have scored 4 or 5, and we've had seasons like that. Our thing at the moment is that when we play well and then don't get the result. That's what's happened sort of up to mid-December, is that we played really well, not score the goals, concede, and end up drawing the game or losing the game. And I think we're kind of both in that kind of respect, the same there. So you guys have got a chance of catching up Liverpool, for example, against us, getting on the same points, going above City and everything else. But we're bound to balls it up, whether it's you or us. So that's why I think most of our guys probably think we're going to get a result. Hazrat says 2-1. Sorry, Dan, go on.
I was just going to say, we've always been like similar. I remember going quite far back. Like, I'm talking when I was at school. One of my mates, he was, because I used to live Derby way, crazy Everton fan, me, been Everton fan a long time, but I've lived different places. I remember living Derby way, and one of my mates at school, he supported Aston Villa. I can remember us having 5 bets. He said Villa were going to win. Henry, I remember Henry, who used to play for you. He says he was your player back then, and this was years and years ago. And I was like, "Oh, we're going to win." And you was fighting for 6th back then. This is a long time I'm talking ago. You was fighting for 6th. We was fighting for 6th. This was under David Moyes, and we tried to push that mould of trying to get top 4. And Aston Villa was 6th, Everton was 6th. And then I've had other friends that are Aston Villa fans as well. When you used to have Barry, Bondahor and all that lot, we had Lascott. We had some 3-2 games then. Remember that one that was end-to-end? And it went, 1-0, 3-2?
I was going to mention that game because I said about like the affinity I've got for Everton. And that it's always been a close game between us, and it's always been a game that we've been in similar positions up until when we got relegated. And I know you guys went through similar last year, and I feel like there was a lot of similarities to what happened to us as to what happened to you with ownership and whatever else. I'm not going to get it out on the camera, but the Everton game where we won 3-2 up at Goodison Park, funny enough, I've got a cracking scar from sort of here down to just short of my elbow from when Young scored that goal. I remember Lescott scoring. We started to file towards the back of the stand, and then when Young scored, everybody's run forwards. I was probably only about 15, 16 at the time. And as we've run down the steps, I fell, hit my arm, and didn't even realise I'd cut it open. And it was only when we'd walked back to the back of the stand at the end of the game, I got a white shirt on, I took my coat off, and I completely opened my arm up. So instead of coming home on the coach with everybody else, I actually had to stay up with you guys for the night because I had to go to the hospital to get it stitched up. So that's one game that will always be in my memory. It's one of the sort of stories of where were you when. But yeah, I genuinely mean what I said earlier. it's always a close game, and I have got genuinely a lot of affinity for Everton. I know you might get people on here who give you stick and whatever else. A lot of respect for a club that doesn't get the credit it deserves, are historically a big club. And it's always a good game between us. So I'm hoping tomorrow, yes, I want to win the game, but I'm hoping it's a good game as well.
Paul, I remember, we're ending it now,
it was
Paul,
worth
I actually remember.
It was worth it.
I remember this, Paul, and this was a long time ago as well. And this is my last memory I'll share. But I remember one of my mates, Villa season ticket holder, and he goes, I've got a free ticket to come and watch. He knew I supported Everton. He goes, I've got a free ticket to come in the Villa end. I goes, no, I'm not doing it. He goes, free ticket, I'll take you and everything in the car. I says, no, I'm not doing it. And I ended up going. I was younger. This is when you say 15, I was 15, then I'm 34 now. And I was young then. I can't remember exactly what age I was, but I was in there. And Patrick Berger scored from like the halfway line and we lost. And I would never, ever, ever go. It was the worst game I've ever been to. Don't ever do it. No matter how much you love your team, if it's a free ticket, don't go in the opposite end. Ever, ever, ever. And I hated it. Yeah. So that's a memory I've got. But I don't know whether you remember that game. I just remember Berger scoring from literally miles.
We've had a few random ones against Everton over the years. I remember coming up to you when I was a kid. We played in the FA Cup. I remember Paul Merson scoring a lob from probably about 35 yards out. And we were terrible that game. I think it was the only shot we had the whole game. And it was right at the end of the game. And he's just taken a pot shot and it's dipped in over. And I think we got to the FA Cup final that year and ended up losing to Chelsea in the final. But yeah, I've got a lot of memories coming up to Goodison Park. It's, for me,
good flashbacks.
I'm kind of sad that you're moving from there. I think it's one of those traditional grounds, a bit like Villa Park. There's been a lot of...
Don't make me cry on the stream, mate.
Oh, tell me about it. I say Villa Park, we're being told that we might be moving from our ground. There's a lot of rumours around here that that's something that the owners might be looking at. And, traditional British grounds, Everton, not Goodison Park, Villa Park, it's proper football. Forget all these domes and fancy stadiums. Goodison Park, when the atmosphere is good, is as good an away day as anywhere I've been.
That's the thing. The new stadium's incredible, but the pump that the good lady puts in your chest, just like say the history in your stadium and stuff like that. It's going to make me emotional when we go. We've got to go because you've got to move forward with the times, ain't you? It's all technology and frigging new stadiums and flashy, keeping up with money now. It's business nowadays. It's not football, isn't it? So we've got to do. What was you going to say, Paul? Jump on. Sorry, I jumped on you there.
Yeah, let me just whiz through some more of these, to be fair, because they're not all positive. Blues is in. I'll get to him in a minute.
Blues.
Hazrat Meerkat's in. He said 2-1, obviously, with Dukes and Danjuma. That'd be brilliant if Danjuma got on the score sheet. I'd love that. His team is the same as the rest of us. I do hope it works out that way. Especially Coleman right back. I just think that would work really well, to be honest. Blues. Always the positive one. 2-0 Villa, Watkins and Bailey. But he does hope he's wrong, so I'll give him that.
It's not a fake account for anything.
Yeah, I can understand why, because Villa are flying, so, why not? I can understand it. It won't be out of the...
Blues is the Blues, if anyone's going to put us to lose... The Blues is positive. He's been positive just lately, but he's not... what's the word? Sometimes he'd say, I'm deluded, and I think I'm going to win when we're not. Do you know what I mean? The Blues is very... He has been positive, but I'm going to change the Blues' mind. I'm going to send him a private message and say, we're winning the Blues. We're winning this.
I bet you can't wait, Blues.
I know.
Ollie Larson's in as well, which is good. Not spoke to Ollie before, but he says, if DCL starts, then we'll get a draw. But if Beto starts, then we'll win 3-1. I can see where he's coming from. I think Beto's just got a lot more energy at the moment. He's a lot more hungry, but DCL holds the ball up more. So it all depends on what you fancy, to be fair. Emma says 2-1 Tarks, which she loves. Dukes to get the winner. Watkins to get their one. And we've got some more. Hope Michael Keane weren't in your dreams, Dan. That would have been awful. Bailey
definitely wasn't. Nightmares.
I know. Blues is just expecting another disaster class in finishing, but that's what we're used to, so it wouldn't be a surprise, to be fair.
Can I pass Blues a beer through the screen? Get a bit more loosened up for this pre-match.
I know, yeah. Michael's a Villa fan. Just to let you know, Villa fans are very respectful on the news of the passing of one of your oldest supporters. We appreciate that. Billy Ingham, 90 odd, saw all sorts. Passed away recently. He was in the advert that they did a couple of years ago or last year. So, all respect to Billy, and appreciate my message as well, Michael. Thank you very much. And yeah, people would be happy with the draw. To be honest, people would be happy with the draw if we got it. It wouldn't be the worst sort of thing in the world if that happened. We've got Villa at home after this one, or after a week break. So, yeah, a draw against someone who's second or third in the league is nothing to be sniffed at. Either way, I think we all agree that it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a competitive game, and there's going to be a key moment in it which is going to swing it one way or another.
Put my kale top on tonight. Kale with a yellow trim. Get some boxing going for tonight. Ready for this one. This is Eye of the Tiger. This is a big game. This is. I'm excited for it. I think we'll beat them, but they're second in the league. Like he's just said, second, third, and they're at the top, and you don't get there for no reason. So I respect these massively. It's going to be a really good game. This is tomorrow. These get me excited. I probably won't sleep now. I should have done this at the start. You do a podcast. Do you want to give yourself a shout out?
Yeah, so we're a little bit different to sort of regular podcasting, that we're more of like a football phone-in. We do normally a Tuesday night, albeit I've started a new job this week, so it's been a bit nuts, and I've got kids going back to school and all sorts. But yeah, we're at A Villa Fan Pod on Twitter. We're kind of hoping to sort of replicate what you guys do in terms of on YouTube. But at the moment, we do a live spaces on Twitter. It's then ripped and recorded to podcast on all platforms. And we just give fans a view from what they're thinking on the pitch to off the pitch. We've also got a seat on the fan advisory board, so I get to go to the meetings and discuss the things that we're not so happy about at the club. Not that they listen, which is probably the same for you guys. But we do our best.
Yeah.
We try and do everything we can for fans to come on, say how they feel, and literally feedback verbatim what people are saying about things off the pitch. Because trust me, as good as things are on the pitch at the moment, there's a lot of stuff off the pitch that the Villa could improve at the moment as well. So yeah, it's at A Villa Fan Pod.
Yes, if you want to give him an ad on Twitter, sometimes you'll hear him on the Spaces. That's what we did, literally. We was on the Spaces.
We
had loads on, and we started with the Space. That's how me and Paul met. I mean, that's how we met on our date. That's how we met on the Spaces and become mates since then. We've even met families after that. But we started with the Spaces. Then the Spaces, sometimes you don't know who you're going to get on. It's hard to handle them sometimes. So we moved over to the channel because you kind of got your own crowd on that. It's a bit more professional. So we moved over to the channel now, and we've only been going one season, but it's doing really well, and we're happy with it. And we connect with a lot of Everton fans on this, so we're happy with that. And you sound like you're doing the same, mate. So good luck on what you're doing, and I'm pretty sure you'll smash it. And we'll try and get you on every time we play you now, if we can, or if not, we'll have to get someone else on. But we've really liked having you on, mate. Speak really well, so no doubt you'll smash it in whatever you do. This is it then. This is the big game, Paul. We're going to end the stream. It's a big game. Everton versus Aston Villa. I think I'd prefer playing them away. I would. I don't like playing at home that much.
Well, yeah. Well, we're not statistically, we're not great at home scoring goals. So, yeah, anything we get tomorrow, I think we'll be happy with.
Yeah, we'll do it. We can win. And he's going 2-1. I'm going 2-0. Paul's going 2-1. And then let's just see what happens on this. Thanks for coming on, Nick. I hope you've had a good one. And bad luck for tomorrow, as they say.
Same to you guys, but at the same time, I just want to say I genuinely mean this. I've said it all night. Really hope you guys get out the mess that the FA and other people have put you guys in. You deserve better than that.
It does mean a lot, to be fair, when you hear people say like that from other teams and stuff like that.
It's not measured enough. Like I say, I know we're trying to finish here, but genuinely, it really frustrates me that, like, you hit the nail on the head. There's teams that want to push to get into that top six. We can't do it because long haul wise, FFP wise, whatever else, we're sort of held back. But what's happened with you guys is no fault of you guys as supporters. You guys are custodians of Everton, and you deserve a lot better. So hopefully, you get yourselves up the table. We see you back up there. Many more games to go ahead. Most played game in the top flight. And as I said earlier as well, a lot of respect, and rest in peace to Michael Jones as well, that we've had a lot of dealings with this year with his family.
What an Aston Villa fan we've got on, people. Thanks for coming on, mate. Absolutely boss show. And let's do this tomorrow. Bring it on. Bye, everyone.
There are the things I want to know.